Far beyond the bright core of the galaxy, near a silent and forgotten star system, the Galactic fleet moved slowly through the void. Thousands of ships floated in formation, shining like silver specks against the darkness. They were returning from a long patrol when a strange signal appeared on their sensors. It was weak, old, and filled with static. The communication officer frowned and turned toward the admiral. "Sir, we are receiving something strange from Sector 9, she said. The admiral barely looked up. "Strange? How strange?" he asked. The officer hesitated. "It's human code, sir." The bridge fell silent. No one spoke. Humans had vanished from the galaxy hundreds of years ago. Their worlds were destroyed, their people gone. Everyone knew that. The admiral stood slowly, eyes fixed on the monitor. "Run it again," he ordered. The signal repeated, short bursts of sound, rhythmic, precise. It was unmistakably human. The crew whispered in disbelief. "Impossible," one of them said. "Humans are extinct." The admiral gave a cold smile. "Maybe it's just leftover junk. A ghost transmission from the old wars." But deep inside, he felt something uneasy. They changed course toward the source of the signal. As the fleet approached the dead system, their scanners picked up shapes orbiting the cold star. They looked like metal wrecks, maybe old battle debris. The admiral leaned back in his chair. "See. Just human scrap," he said confidently. The others laughed nervously. But then one of the wrecks moved. It rotated slightly, engines faintly glowing. The laughter stopped instantly. "Admiral, that ship just powered up," a voice whispered. "Impossible. Those ships are centuries old," he shouted. But the sensors confirmed it, energy spikes, power cores activating. One by one, the dark shapes began to light up. Blue engines came alive in the void, silent but bright. "Identify them," the admiral demanded. The technician swallowed hard. "Sir, these are human warships. Design unknown. Technology far beyond recorded models." The admiral's confidence vanished. He stepped closer to the screen. The ships looked ancient but alive, armored with strange alloys that reflected no radar. "How many?" he asked quietly. "At least 20, sir. Maybe more. They are moving into formation." The fleet tensed. Every alien officer felt it, a chill in their spine. These were not dead ships. They were waiting. "Send a message," the admiral ordered. "Standard greeting protocol. Tell them we come in peace." The comm officer sent the transmission. Minutes passed. No response. The admiral frowned. "Try again." Another minute. Still silence. Then, all of a sudden, the lights on the human ships changed. Their engines flared brighter. Weapon systems came online. The alien fleet's alarms rang loudly. "They're locking targets," someone shouted. "Raise shields," the admiral yelled. The fleet's defense systems came alive, energy shields spreading across hulls. The admiral opened a direct channel. "This is Admiral Kravos of the Galactic Fleet. We come with no harm. Identify yourselves." But before his message finished, every screen on the bridge flickered. Static filled the air, and then, a voice. Cold, calm, and unmistakably human. "Galactic Fleet, you are trespassing." The entire bridge froze. The voice was deep and emotionless. "We repeat," it said. "You are trespassing in restricted human space. Turn back immediately." The admiral stared in disbelief. "Restricted? Human space? That's impossible. Humanity doesn't exist anymore," he said aloud, but the words felt weak. He turned to his officers. "Scan them again. Find out where these ships came from." The scans ran, but the results made no sense. The human ships didn't match any known database. Their energy signatures were too advanced. Not fusion, not antimatter, something else entirely. "Sir," the sensor officer said slowly, "these ships, They are not new, but their power readings are off the scale. The Admiral clenched his jaw. Prepare weapons. Just in case. The crew obeyed, but fear filled their faces. Then, without warning, the human ships disappeared from radar. Every scanner went blank. What happened? The Admiral shouted. Where did they go? The comms officer screamed. They're gone. All of them. Confusion spread across the bridge. Maybe they cloaked. Someone guessed. No cloak can hide from our sensors, another replied. Before anyone could react, alarms blared again. Contact! They're behind us. Dozens of human ships had reappeared, directly behind the Galactic fleet, weapons aimed at every capital ship. The Admiral froze. How did they? He didn't finish the sentence. The human ships stayed perfectly still, engines burning softly like blue fire. The Admiral's hands trembled. He had seen war, he had fought many battles, but nothing like this. He opened the channel again. This is Admiral Kravos. We don't want to fight. Please stand down. Silence. Then the human voice returned. You were warned once. Do not test our patience. The tone was sharp now, colder than before. The Admiral felt sweat run down his neck. All ships hold position, he said quietly. No one fires. Not a single shot. Outside, the human fleet waited, silent, calm, watching. The alien crew stared at their screens, too scared to move. For a long moment, space was quiet, only the hum of engines filling the air. Then, just as suddenly as they appeared, the human ships turned and vanished again into the black. The fleet was left alone in the void. The Admiral exhaled slowly. What just happened? He whispered. No one answered. The comms officer looked pale. Sir, she said softly, what if humanity never died? The Admiral looked out at the stars. The dead system was quiet again, but the signal still echoed faintly through the static. Somewhere out there, humans were alive. And they had just warned the galaxy to stay away. The Galactic fleet drifted in uneasy silence after the encounter. The strange human ships had vanished into the black, leaving behind only confusion and fear. No one spoke for a long time. On the command bridge, Admiral Kravos stood by the viewing window, staring at the dead star that glowed faintly in the distance. They can't be human, he said softly, almost to himself. Humans don't have technology like that. The science officer, a nervous thin alien with glowing yellow eyes, replied, Sir, the energy readings don't match anything we know. Their ships moved faster than light, but not through any warp corridor. The Admiral turned sharply. Not warp? Then how? The officer hesitated. It's like they bent space itself. Sir. They appeared and disappeared without leaving any trace. The Admiral clenched his fists. That's impossible, he muttered. But he knew what he saw. Those ships were real. Those voices were real. Humanity was not extinct. The Admiral walked back to his chair. We will try again, he said finally. Maybe they were defending old territory. We will show them we mean no harm. The crew exchanged uncertain looks. Everyone remembered the cold human voice that warned them to leave. But no one dared to question their admiral. Orders were orders. Prepare the communication array, Kravos said. We'll send a peaceful message. The officer activated the long-range transmitters, sending a signal in all human frequencies known from ancient records. The message was simple. We come in peace. We wish to establish communication. Minutes passed. The signal echoed into the dark, but there was no response. The bridge was tense. The silence felt heavy, unnatural. Maybe they are ignoring us, someone whispered. The Admiral tapped his finger on the armrest. Keep trying, he ordered. They have to answer. Another transmission was sent. Still nothing. Then suddenly, all systems flickered. The lights dimmed, and the ship sensors scrambled into static. What's happening? The Admiral shouted. Power surge. Something's interfering with us, yelled the engineer. The screen cleared for a second, and there they were. The human ships. Dozens of them. This time, they appeared closer, forming a perfect wall between the fleet and the dead star. They were watching us, said the comms officer quietly. They knew we would come back. The admiral took a deep breath. Open a direct channel, he said. Let me speak to them myself. A small green light blinked, meaning the channel was open. This is Admiral Kravos of the Galactic Fleet, he said firmly. We seek peaceful contact with humanity. We have no hostile intentions. For a few seconds, there was only static. Then the same voice from before came through, calm and emotionless. You were warned once. This sector is restricted. The admiral stepped closer to the mic. We understand, but we only wish to talk. There is no need for conflict. Silence again. Then the human voice replied, colder now. Your presence is already a conflict. The admiral tried to speak again, but before he could, every human ship vanished from the radar. They're gone, the comms officer shouted. The admiral slammed his fist on the console. Find them, he roared. The scanners worked frantically, but no sign of life appeared. They must be using advanced cloaking, said the science officer. Or, his voice trailed off. Or what? The admiral snapped. Or they are moving through dimensions we can't detect. Kravos froze. That kind of technology was beyond anything the galaxy had ever built. Before he could respond, the alarms blared again. Contacts! Behind us! Shouted the defense officer. The admiral spun toward the viewing screen. The human fleet had reappeared, this time behind the galactic ships. They were surrounding them in a perfect circle. Every alien heart on the bridge went cold. How did they get behind us so fast? Someone whispered. No warp signatures. No movement detected, replied the sensor officer. It's like they just appeared. The admiral tried once more. Human fleet, we mean no harm. Please. But his voice was drowned out by the sound of targeting alarms. The human ships had locked on to every galactic vessel. They are preparing to fire, shouted the weapons officer. Shields up, the admiral ordered. The fleet raised its energy barriers, glowing blue across space. Hold your fire, Kravos shouted to his captains over the comms. No one shoots unless I give the order. The bridge was filled with tension. Everyone waited. The human ships didn't move. They just floated, silent and still, like predators watching prey. Then suddenly, one galactic ship, small, nervous, fired a single warning shot. A beam of plasma streaked across space, hitting nothing. The admiral's heart dropped. Who fired that? He screamed. Signal from the cruiser Varlon, sir. They panicked. But before Kravos could respond, the human ships moved. Not forward, not back, but in an impossible blur. Their hulls shimmered with white light, and then, just like before, they vanished from all sensors. They're gone again, the comms officer shouted. No, wait, yelled the science officer. They're not gone, they're everywhere. The radar filled with thousands of red dots. More human ships had appeared around the fleet, so many that the system couldn't count them all. This can't be real, whispered the admiral. No fleet this large could exist. Then the voice came again. You fired upon us, it said. The admiral tried to explain. It was a mistake, a misunderstanding. But the human voice cut through him like a blade. There are no mistakes in restricted space. The signal ended. The human ships stayed still for a few seconds longer, their weapons glowing faintly red. Then, slowly, they powered down and turned away. One by one, they vanished again into the darkness. The galactic fleet was left trembling, their ships damaged only by fear. Admiral Kravos sat down heavily, staring into the endless black. They could have destroyed us, he said quietly. But they didn't. The bridge was silent. No one dared to speak. Then, from the static, another signal appeared on the monitor. A single human message, repeating over and over. Leave this system. Do not return. Kravos looked at his officers. Plot a course out of this sector, he said in a low voice. As the fleet turned away, the admiral glanced one last time at the dark star behind them. Somewhere in that darkness, humans were watching, and waiting. The galactic fleet retreated from the dead star in silence. No one spoke, no one dared to breathe too loudly. The memory of those human ships hung over them like a shadow. Even though the humans hadn't attacked, their power was clear, terrifying, absolute. Admiral Kravos sat alone in his quarters, staring at the old star maps on his desk. His reflection flickered in the glass as he replayed the voice in his head. You were warned once. It wasn't a threat. It was a statement. A rule. Humans were guarding something, and he needed to know what. The door buzzed, and the science officer entered carefully. Sir, he said quietly, we've completed the analysis. Kravos looked up. And the officer swallowed. Those ships use technology we can't understand. Their energy readings are far beyond anything in the database. Sir, they were toying with us. Kravos frowned. Toying? The officer nodded. They could have destroyed us instantly. But they didn't. They were watching. Testing us. Kravos stood and paced slowly. So they know we're weak. The officer hesitated. Yes, sir. And they're warning us not to return. Kravos looked out the window toward the dark system they had left behind. We can't just walk away. The council will want answers. He turned sharply. Prepare a probe. We'll send it back, quietly. I want to know what they're hiding. The officer looked uneasy, but obeyed. Within hours, a stealth probe was launched back toward the human zone. It was small, fast, and invisible to most sensors. The admiral watched as it disappeared into the stars. Let's see how far we can go before they notice, he murmured. For several minutes, the readings came back normal. Dust clouds, radiation fields, nothing unusual. Then the signal cut off. We lost it, the officer said. Kravos shook his head. No. They found it. The screen blinked, and suddenly, a new message appeared, human code again. This time it was short, almost mocking. We told you not to return. The bridge went silent. Every eye turned to the admiral. He didn't speak for a long moment. Finally he said, bring the fleet to defensive formation. If they want to talk, we'll be ready. But deep down, he wasn't sure they could survive another talk. Hours passed with no sign of the human ships. Then, without warning, every alarm on the ship went off. Incoming contacts, shouted the sensor officer. Multiple signatures, human. Kravos stood, heart pounding. How many? At least 30 ships, sir. They're coming fast. The admiral gritted his teeth. Hold your ground. Do not fire unless I say so. The fleet shifted into position, shields glowing. The human ships appeared, emerging from the black like silent ghosts. Their hulls reflected no light, their weapons were already charged. Kravos opened a channel. Human command, this is Admiral Kravos. We did not mean to violate your space. We only wish to understand. He stopped mid-sentence. Every human ship locked weapons on the fleet. Sir, they're targeting us, yelled the weapons officer. Kravos raised a hand. Hold fire, he ordered again. Maybe they're bluffing. But then one of his junior captains, nervous and panicked, made a terrible mistake. The destroyer Viros fired a single plasma shot, a reflex of fear. The bright beam cut across space, striking the lead human ship squarely in the hull. The impact should have caused damage. It didn't. The plasma beam dissolved against a glowing barrier, like water against glass. No effect, shouted the sensor officer. Their shields are absorbing everything. Kravos's blood ran cold. The human ship didn't even flinch. Instead, It turned slightly, its weapon ports opening. "They're charging weapons," someone screamed. "Brace for impact." Kravos shouted. Then it happened. One human ship fired a single beam, a thin, silent line of light that cut through the darkness. The beam hit the Viros directly, and in an instant, the entire destroyer vanished. No explosion. No debris. Just gone. The bridge filled with screams. "They erased it. It's gone." Kravos shouted over the chaos. "Hold position. Do not engage." But his words were lost in panic. Some ships began firing wildly, plasma shots lighting up the void. The human ships didn't move. Their shields absorbed everything effortlessly. Then 2 more beams fired, and 2 more galactic ships disappeared without a sound. "Stop firing!" Kravos roared. "Stop!" Finally, the fleet fell silent. The human ships hovered, weapons still glowing. Then a voice came through the comms again, the same calm, human voice. "We warned you." Kravos's hands shook. He couldn't even speak. The voice continued. "This was your final mistake." The transmission ended, and the human ships turned away, vanishing into the black one by one. Silence returned. Only the wrecked formation of the galactic fleet remained, 3 ships gone without a trace. The bridge was filled with fear. No one moved, no one spoke. Kravos sank into his chair, feeling the weight of his failure. "They didn't destroy us," he said quietly, almost whispering. "They wanted to scare us." The science officer nodded slowly. "And it worked." Kravos stared at the empty screen. "They're not just protecting territory," he said. "They're protecting something else. Something bigger." He looked at the stars ahead, his voice low and grim. "If the Council hears of this, they'll send more fleets. But next time, the humans won't hold back." As the fleet limped away from the system, damaged and broken, a final message flashed on their monitors. "You were given a chance. Do not return again." The Admiral knew then that this was only the beginning. Humanity was no longer a myth. They were real, powerful, watching. And the galaxy had just made them angry. The galactic fleet was broken, its formation scattered and its pride crushed. The surviving ships moved slowly through the dark void, leaving behind the cursed human sector. No one spoke on the bridge. The silence was heavy, filled with fear and shame. Admiral Kravos sat motionless in his chair, staring at the empty stars ahead. His fleet had lost 3 ships without a single explosion, without even a trace of wreckage. It was as if those ships had been erased from existence. The thought haunted him. What kind of power could do that? What kind of civilization could command such control over matter itself? The human voice still echoed in his mind. "We warned you. This was your final mistake." Kravos clenched his fists. "They didn't even fight us," he said quietly. "They punished us." His officers exchanged uneasy looks but said nothing. The communications officer broke the silence first. "Sir, incoming transmission. It's from the Galactic Council." Kravos nodded slowly. "Put it through." The holographic image of Counselor Varek appeared, his face cold and sharp. "Admiral Kravos," he began, "you were ordered to investigate, not provoke. We have received your report, but it lacks clarity. Explain what happened." Kravos hesitated. "Counselor, these humans, they are not what we believed. Their ships are beyond any known technology. They destroyed 3 of ours with a single shot each." The counselor's eyes narrowed. "Are you saying they possess superior weapons?" Kravos nodded grimly. "Superior is not enough to describe it. They erased our ships, Counselor. Not destroyed, erased." The counselor frowned. "We cannot allow an unknown power to control that region of space. Reinforcements will be sent. You are to regroup and hold position until further orders." Kravos opened his mouth to protest but stopped himself. There was no point arguing. The council had made its decision. When the transmission ended, he turned to his officers. "Prepare for reinforcements," he said quietly. "But I doubt they'll make a difference." Hours passed, and the fleet continued its retreat. The stars ahead looked peaceful, but every shadow felt alive, every signal suspicious. "Sir," said the sensor officer suddenly, "I'm picking up readings behind us." Kravos looked up. "How many?" "Dozens," the officer replied. "No, hundreds." The admiral's heart sank. "Are they human?" "Unknown, sir, but the patterns match the same energy signatures as before." The crew's fear returned instantly. "They're following us," someone shouted. "They're everywhere." Kravos stood. "Calm down. Hold formation. Keep moving at full speed." The fleet accelerated, engines burning bright as they tried to escape the invisible pursuers. But the signals kept closing in, no matter how fast they moved. "How are they catching us?" the navigator asked. "They're not catching us," the science officer said. "They're already here." The words froze everyone in place. Suddenly, the radar filled with hundreds of red dots. Human ships materialized from nothing, surrounding the galactic fleet in every direction. "Impossible," Kravos whispered. "They followed us across hyperspace." The human fleet didn't fire, didn't speak. They simply matched the alien speed, keeping perfect distance. It was a warning. A show of control. "They're hurting us," the science officer said softly. "They want us to leave their territory completely." Kravos nodded grimly. "They're making sure we don't look back." The human ships began to shift formation, closing the circle tighter. "Sir, they're moving closer," shouted the defense officer. "Weapons online?" Kravos asked. "No, sir," the officer replied. "Their weapons are off, but they're blocking every escape route." The admiral's voice turned calm but heavy. "All ships, do not engage. Maintain course." The tension was unbearable. The alien crew could feel the human presence pressing against them like an invisible hand. Then, out of nowhere, a single message flashed across every screen in the fleet. It was short and final. "Leave this sector or be removed." The crew held their breath, waiting for the admiral's command. Kravos stared at the message for a long time, then finally spoke. "Plot a direct course out of human space. We're done here." The navigator nodded, hands shaking as he entered the coordinates. The fleet turned slowly, engines roaring to full power. But the humans didn't move. They watched in silence as the galactic ships fled like frightened animals. For several minutes, no one spoke. Then, one by one, the human ships began to vanish again. No jump signatures, no trace. Just gone. The stars grew still again. Kravos exhaled deeply, his hands trembling. "They let us go," he said. The science officer nodded. "Because they wanted to." The admiral looked out at the stars. "We thought we were the masters of this galaxy," he said quietly. "But we're just children playing with sticks while gods watch from the dark." The crew didn't respond. Everyone knew he was right. When the fleet finally crossed the boundary into neutral space, the sensors cleared. No more human signatures followed them. The admiral sat back, exhausted, his eyes hollow. "Send a report to the council," he ordered. "Tell them what we've seen." The communications officer hesitated. "What should we tell them exactly, sir?" Kravos paused, then said, "Tell them humanity is alive. And they don't want to be found." The message was sent. The council would never believe it, not until they faced the humans themselves. As the fleet moved farther away, one last signal appeared on the main screen, faint but clear, a human transmission. It repeated just 3 words. "We are watching." Kravos stared at it for a long time, feeling the chill of those words deep in his bones. Humanity had returned to the galaxy's story, but not as victims. They were now the hunters, silent and unseen. And everyone who crossed their path would learn the same lesson. The humans never forgot, and they never forgave. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with noise and fear. Representatives from dozens of alien worlds shouted over one another, demanding answers, demanding safety. Reports of the human fleet had spread across the stars faster than light itself. Some called them ghosts, others called them gods, but everyone agreed on one thing: the humans were back, and they were dangerous. At the center of the chamber stood Admiral Kravos, pale and tired. He had been summoned to explain his failure. 1,000 eyes were watching him. "You claim these humans erased your ships," said Counselor Varek, his tone sharp. "Do you have proof?" Kravos clenched his jaw. "You have my report, Counselor. You saw the data. 3 ships gone without a trace, their atoms ripped from space itself." The Counselor waved a hand. "Technology that can do this does not exist. Perhaps your fleet malfunctioned." Kravos's voice rose, breaking through the noise. "Malfunction? They destroyed us as easily as breathing. You think this is a story? You think I enjoy being humiliated?" The chamber went silent. For a moment, no one spoke. Then another voice came from the shadows. "He's telling the truth," said a woman in a dark cloak. She stepped forward, Dr. Celera, chief historian of the Council Archives. "I've seen records," she said quietly. "Old ones. From before the collapse." The Council murmured in confusion. "Records of what?" Varek asked. "Of human experiments," she said. "Projects abandoned after they vanished from the galactic stage. They were working on something called dimensional phase travel. It allowed ships to move outside normal space." Kravos turned to her sharply. "That's how they appear and disappear." Celera nodded. "Yes. They didn't die, Admiral. They left. They hid themselves beyond our reach." The room buzzed with disbelief. "And now," she continued, "they've returned." The Counselor frowned. "Returned for what?" "Revenge." Kravos looked around the room, his voice low. "No. They were protecting something. A system, a secret. Whatever it is, they don't want us near it." Celera raised a hand, activating a projection above the table. A map appeared, a region of space long marked as empty. "This is where they warned you to stay away," she said. "Centuries ago, that was human territory. Before they disappeared, they sent out a message to the entire galaxy: do not follow us. We ignored it then. We're paying for it now." The Council fell into uneasy silence. For the first time in generations, they faced a power that was not under their control. Counselor Varek broke the silence. "We cannot let this stand. If humans possess this technology, they threaten the balance of power. We must act before they act first." Kravos stared at him. "Act? How? You didn't see what I saw. They erased ships like dust. Send 1,000 fleets. It won't matter." Varek's voice turned cold. "You forget your place, Admiral. You are a soldier, not a philosopher. If they can bleed, they can be destroyed." Celera shook her head. "You don't understand. Humanity isn't seeking war. They're warning us. Something else is happening out there." Her words made the room fall silent again. "Something else?" Varek asked. "What do you mean?" Celera hesitated. "I'm not certain, but our sensors have detected unusual energy fields near the human sector. Massive, chaotic, not natural. It's as if something is breaking through." The council members exchanged nervous looks. Kravos frowned. "And the humans are guarding it?" "Perhaps," Celera said. "Or perhaps they caused it." The counselor slammed his hand on the table. "Enough speculation. We will send a new fleet, larger, stronger. If the humans want isolation, they'll get destruction instead." The room erupted in mixed reactions. Some agreed, some shouted in protest. Kravos raised his voice. "You're making a mistake. You'll start a war we can't win." But Varek ignored him. Prepare the armada, he ordered. We launch within the week. Kravos stormed out of the chamber, fury burning in his chest. As he walked down the metallic halls, Celera caught up with him. Admiral, she said softly, they won't listen. They never do. He stopped. Then they'll die. She nodded sadly. Maybe. But we have to know what the humans are protecting. If it's as dangerous as I think, the whole galaxy could be at risk. Kravos turned to her. You want to go back there? Yes, she said. But not with a fleet. With stealth probes, deep scans, quietly. Kravos thought for a long moment. You'll need my help. You'd risk your life again, she asked. He gave a bitter smile. I've already lost everything else. As they walked away together, alarms echoed faintly through the city above, the sound of the new fleet mobilizing. Across the stars, shipyards roared to life, weapons were armed, and orders were sent. The Council was preparing for war. But far away, beyond the known galaxy, something stirred. A faint ripple in space expanded like a heartbeat. It wasn't human, and it wasn't friendly. Deep inside the void, human sensors detected it first. On an ancient warship hidden behind the dark star, a human commander opened his eyes as the readings flashed across his screen. So, he whispered. They finally noticed. His second officer turned. The Council. No, the commander said, his voice calm but heavy. The others. The human fleet powered up in silence, engines glowing faint blue against the darkness. The humans were not preparing for revenge. They were preparing for something far worse. Across the galaxy, the tension grew like a storm. The Galactic Council had officially declared humanity a threat, and fleets were being built at an alarming speed. Thousands of ships prepared for war, fueled by arrogance and fear. Yet deep within the dark regions of space, humanity was already watching. From behind the black star, hidden bases came alive, their systems awakening after centuries of silence. Command centers buzzed with quiet activity, human officers speaking in calm voices, their tone sharp and controlled. On the bridge of the massive human flagship Helios Prime, Commander Arlen stood before a large screen showing the movement of alien fleets across the galaxy. His face was cold, unreadable. They're coming, said Lieutenant Hara. The Council has mobilized everything they have. Arlen nodded slowly. We expected this. They never listen. Hara hesitated. Should we strike first? Arlen's eyes flickered. No. Not yet. The message must be clear before we move. He turned toward the communications officer. Prepare the broadcast. The officer saluted and began typing rapidly. A few minutes later, every major world across the galaxy went dark. Screens in homes, ships, and command centers all flickered with static before a symbol appeared, a glowing Earth emblem surrounded by stars. Then a human voice filled the air. Calm, steady, and impossible to ignore. To all who hear this message, it began, this is the United Human Command. The words spread like wildfire across the stars. Centuries ago, your ancestors cast us out. You feared what we would become. You called us dangerous. You were right. Across alien cities, people stopped to watch. The voice continued, we left your galaxy not in defeat, but by choice. We built new worlds, far beyond your reach. And now, we return, not for conquest, but to protect what you cannot see. The council chambers erupted in chaos. Protect, shouted Counselor Varek. Protect from what? But the human broadcast didn't stop. A storm is coming. Something older than your civilizations. Something that feeds on light and life. We've held it back for generations. But your fleets, your greed, your arrogance have brought you too close. The signal shifted, showing images that made every heart freeze. Massive, dark shapes moving through the void, devouring entire stars. You call us a threat, the voice said, but we are your only shield. The message ended abruptly, leaving silence across the galaxy. On Helios Prime, Commander Arlen looked out into the darkness. Now they know, he said quietly. Hara turned to him. Do you think they'll believe it? Arlen's expression didn't change. No. They'll think it's a trick. And then they'll come. And they did. Days later, the Galactic Armada arrived at the border of human space. It was the largest fleet in history, thousands of ships glowing with power. At its center stood Admiral Kravos, who had been forced by the Council to lead the attack. He stared at the star map before him, feeling a cold weight in his chest. He didn't want this battle, but he had no choice. The Council wanted war. Fleet ready, his officer said. All ships in position. Kravos gave a slow nod. Begin approach. As the alien fleet advanced, scanners began to distort. Space itself started to twist. Then, from the shadows, the human fleet appeared. Silent, perfect, terrifying. Hundreds of colossal warships, their black armor absorbing all light. Kravos felt the old fear return. They're here, he whispered. The human commander's voice came through every comm channel. Galactic fleet, turn back immediately. This is your last warning. Varek, speaking from his command ship, laughed. You can't stop us all, human. We are the galaxy's unity. You are relics of the past. There was a pause, and then the calm human voice replied, then the past will teach the future a lesson. The human ships powered up. Energy readings spiked beyond all known limits. The alien fleet opened fire first, thousands of plasma beams and missiles lighting up the void. But the weapons never reached their targets. Every shot stopped mid-space, frozen, and then disintegrated. What is this? Shouted one alien officer. The humans answered with silence. One by one, their ships fired. Beams of light as pure as the heart of a sun cut through the alien fleet like a blade through mist. Ships vanished, not in explosions but in flashes of light. Clean, instant, final. Kravos shouted. Cease fire. Pull back. They're not attacking, they're demonstrating. But his voice was drowned by the chaos. Dozens of alien ships broke formation, fleeing in panic. Yet the humans didn't chase. Instead, their commander spoke again, his tone heavy and calm. You were warned. We seek no war. But the next attack will not end the same. The human fleet held position, their weapons cooling, their ships unmoving. For the first time in history, the Galactic Armada stopped. Then, without another word, the humans turned and vanished, fading into the dark like ghosts. In the silence that followed, Kravos sat on his bridge, heart pounding. He finally understood. The humans weren't trying to destroy anyone, they were trying to protect everyone from something far worse. He turned to his second officer. Send word to the Council, he said quietly. Tell them to stand down. We're not ready for this fight. But far beyond them, in the empty dark, Commander Arlen watched his screens. New readings appeared, ripples in space, spreading like cracks in glass. They're coming sooner than expected, Hara said softly. Arlen nodded. Then we move now. The human fleets began to deploy again, not toward the Council, but toward the edge of the galaxy, toward the threat no one else believed in. Humanity had warned them. Now, once again, it would be humanity that stood between the galaxy and extinction. The galaxy was in shock. Every major news channel, every military base, and every council world replayed the footage of the battle again and again. No one could understand what they had seen. The human fleet had erased thousands of ships without firing more than a few shots. Their weapons defied logic, their ships ignored gravity, and their technology broke every known rule of physics. Yet the humans hadn't destroyed everything, they had stopped the attack, warned the galaxy, and vanished. Panic spread through the council worlds. Some believed humanity had become gods, others feared they would soon conquer all. But a few began to realize the truth. Humans weren't preparing for war. They were preparing for something worse. Admiral Kravos, now stripped of command, sat alone in a dark room on the capital world. He hadn't spoken in days. The council blamed him for the defeat, but deep down, he didn't care. His mind kept replaying the human warning, "A storm is coming." He didn't know what it meant, but he felt it in his bones. Something was moving in the dark. Dr. Celera entered the room quietly. "They've begun mobilizing the Second Fleet," she said. "They're going to try again." Kravos looked up sharply. "They're fools. Didn't they see what happened?" "They saw," she said softly, "but they're afraid. Fear makes people do stupid things." Kravos sighed. "And what about you? You still think the humans are protecting something?" She nodded. "I know they are. The energy readings near the edge of their territory are growing. Something's tearing the fabric of space. If it keeps spreading, the entire galaxy will feel it." Kravos stood, his expression dark. "Then we don't have much time." Meanwhile, far beyond council space, deep within the human sector, Commander Arlen and his fleet gathered near the Dark Star. Thousands of ships hovered silently as new structures came online. Massive energy arrays and shield generators, orbiting the void like rings of fire. On the command bridge of Helios Prime, Lieutenant Hara approached. "All defenses are operational," she reported. "But the readings are getting worse. Whatever's behind that rift, it's growing fast." Arlen stared at the display. The rift looked like a wound in space, twisting and pulsing with strange light. "How long before it breaches?" "At this rate," Hara said quietly, 3 days. Maybe less." Arlen didn't speak for a long moment. Then he said, "Send word to the colonies. Begin evacuation procedures." Hara blinked. "Evacuate the colonies? That's billions of people." "I know," Arlen said. "But if the breach expands, nothing will survive near this region. Not human, not alien." She hesitated. "And what about the council fleets?" Arlen's eyes hardened. "We'll deal with them if they come too close." Back in the Galactic Council, chaos reigned. Counselor Varek stood before the chamber, furious. "They think they can warn us? Threaten us? They destroyed our fleet and now hide behind their lies. There is no rift, it's human propaganda." Celera stepped forward. "With respect, Counselor, the data is real. Our own sensors confirm spatial instability near the human border. You can't ignore it." "Lies!" Varek shouted. "They're creating this illusion to frighten us into submission." Kravos slammed his hand on the table. "Enough. I was there. I saw what they can do. You have no idea what you're provoking." But the council was deaf to reason. They voted to send the Second Armada, even larger than before. As the chambers emptied, Celera turned to Kravos. "They're going to start a war during a cosmic disaster," she said. "They'll doom us all." Kravos clenched his fists. "Then we stop them, our way." He leaned closer, voice low. "You still have access to the archives?" She nodded. "Then find me every record, every human warning, every message they ever sent before they vanished. I need to know what they were guarding." Celera agreed, and the two began their desperate plan to uncover the truth before the galaxy tore itself apart. Back near the rift, the human fleet had begun to feel the pull of the unknown. The space around them rippled, and strange signals filled their sensors. Patterns, whispers, almost like voices. "Commander," said Hara, "the readings are changing. They're forming structures, like something trying to come through." Arlen frowned. "Visuals." The screen flickered, revealing shadows moving within the rift. Enormous shapes, darker than black, gliding like smoke with glowing eyes. "They're awake," Arlen whispered. "They've found us." The bridge fell silent. "Prepare the containment field," he ordered. "And alert all stations, contact with the enemy is confirmed." Across the fleet, alarms sounded. The humans began charging the energy rings surrounding the rift. Blue light filled the void as massive generators roared to life. Their purpose wasn't to attack, it was to hold back the breach. but the rift fought back. Waves of dark energy struck the human ships, shaking them violently. Hulls cracked, shields flared, and systems overloaded. Still, they held the line. Arlen gritted his teeth. "We can't hold it much longer," shouted an engineer. "If this continues, we hold," Arlen snapped. "Humanity has stood against extinction before. We'll do it again." Outside, the rift exploded in light. Dozens of massive, shadow-like creatures began to emerge, their forms half real, half nightmare. The humans opened fire, not to destroy, but to push them back. For every blast, another creature came through. Arlen activated his comm. "This is Commander Arlen of the United Human Command. To any listening forces, stay away from the rift. Repeat, stay away. The darkness is awake." His words echoed across the stars, reaching even the Council worlds. Kravos and Celera heard it from their ship, and both froze. "So it's true," Celera whispered. "They weren't lying." Kravos looked out into the stars. "No," he said grimly. "They were trying to save us." In the distance, the human fleet continued its desperate stand against the impossible. As the rift widened, the entire sky seemed to twist, and the first real battle for the fate of the galaxy began. Not between humans and aliens, but between life and something that had no name. The rift had become a wound across the stars, wide and burning with impossible light. Waves of dark energy spread through space, twisting gravity, bending time, and sending chaos through every nearby system. The human fleet fought relentlessly, their weapons glowing like suns, their ships shaking under the strain of forces no technology should endure. Commander Arlen stood on the bridge of Helios Prime, eyes locked on the swirling abyss before him. "Report," he ordered through the chaos. Lieutenant Hara's voice trembled slightly. "Containment field at 60%, collapsing in sectors 4 through 9. We've lost 17 ships, and, sir, more of them are coming through." The screen flickered, showing dozens of dark entities pushing against the barrier. Creatures made of shadow and fire, their forms shifting like smoke and lightning. "Keep firing," Arlen commanded. "Reinforce the field with all available energy." "That will drain our core," Hara warned. Arlen didn't hesitate. "Do it. Humanity's existence depends on this." Across the fleet, power rerouted from every system. The ships dimmed as all energy flowed into the containment barrier. The glowing blue ring brightened until it was almost blinding. For a moment, the rift slowed. The shadows screamed, their sound echoing across the comms like distorted whispers. "It's working," shouted one officer. But then, the readings spiked. A massive burst of dark energy exploded from within the rift, hitting the entire fleet like a tidal wave. Ships spun out of control, shields shattered, and several vessels were torn apart instantly. "Brace for impact," Arlen shouted as the Helios Prime shook violently. Consoles sparked, alarms screamed, and the lights flickered out for a moment before emergency power came online. "Damage report. Hull integrity at 72%, Hara gasped. "Main reactor stable but unstable fluctuations increasing." Arlen steadied himself. "We can't win this battle alone. Send out the distress signal. All channels." Hara hesitated. "To who?" "To everyone," he said firmly. "Even the Council." She sent the message, broadcasting a simple but chilling plea across the galaxy. "This is Commander Arlen of the United Human Command. The darkness is breaking through. We can't hold it alone. If we fall, it will consume everything." The transmission spread like wildfire. On the Council capital, panic broke out as the message played through every terminal and every screen. Councillor Varek stormed into the command center, shouting, "Turn that off. It's a trick." But Admiral Kravos stood at the edge of the viewing platform, staring at the live feed from the human sector. The rift, the creatures, the battle. His voice was quiet but filled with awe. "It's real." Dr. Celera turned to him, eyes wide with fear. "If they fail, the rift will spread. We'll all die. Then we're done arguing," Kravos said, his tone hardening. We're going to help them. Varek glared at him. Help them? After what they did to our fleets? You idiot, Kravos snapped. They didn't destroy us, they were trying to protect us. Look at that. He pointed to the screen, where entire human ships were sacrificing themselves to hold the line. If they lose, there won't be any galaxy left to argue over. The room fell silent. Kravos turned to the operators. Prepare all ships. Every single one. We're joining the fight. Across the Council worlds, fleets began to mobilize. This time, there was no talk of politics or revenge, only survival. Within hours, thousands of ships from dozens of species were on their way to the human border. Back at the rift, the humans were nearly at their limit. The containment field flickered and failed in sections. Massive creatures slipped through, attacking the nearest human ships. Laser fire and plasma bursts lit up the void. We can't hold much longer, shouted Hara. Arlen's jaw tightened. We'll hold as long as it takes. Suddenly, sensors detected new contacts. Hundreds, then thousands. Incoming fleet detected, cried the sensor officer. Multiple signatures, Council fleets. Arlen's eyes widened. They came. The alien ships emerged from hyperspace, forming a vast line behind the human fleet. For a moment, both sides hesitated. Then Kravos's voice came through the comms. Commander Arlen, this is Admiral Kravos. We're here to help. Tell us where you need us. Arlen didn't waste a second. Form a secondary containment line. Target any entity that breaches the barrier. And whatever happens, don't fire at the rift itself. Understood, Kravos replied. The combined fleets opened fire. Beams of light and energy filled the darkness, striking the shadow creatures that tried to escape. The void became a battlefield of fire and chaos, human and alien ships fighting side by side for the first time in history. But the rift grew angrier. Its edges twisted faster, its energy pulsing violently. It's unstable, Hara shouted. If it collapses inward, then everything goes with it, Arlen finished grimly. We need to seal it now. He turned to his engineer. Can we overload the containment grid? Yes, but that will destroy every ship in range, the engineer replied. Arlen nodded. Then that's what we'll do. Hara looked at him, horrified. You can't be serious. We don't have time for anything else, he said quietly. If this spreads, no one survives. He activated the comms. All units, this is Commander Arlen. We're initiating final protocol. Evacuate non-essential personnel and prepare for detonation. The channel filled with silence, then voices of agreement. One by one, ships began transmitting final messages home. On Helios Prime, Arlen looked out at the stars, calm despite the chaos. It's been an honor, he said softly. For all mankind. Then he gave the final order. Overload containment. The ring around the rift flared brighter than a sun. Energy surged, reality bent, and everything was consumed in white light. The shockwave rippled across space, pushing the rift closed. For a few eternal seconds, there was nothing but silence. Then, as the light faded, the rift was gone. The void was still. Humanity's fleet was gone too. Only fragments drifted through the darkness. On the surviving council ships, stunned silence filled the bridges. Kravos stared at the empty space where Helios Prime had been. They did it, he whispered. They saved us all. But deep in the wreckage, a faint beacon blinked, a signal hidden, pulsing slowly. Humanity, it seemed, wasn't finished yet.